This is your Set Championships meta report. Give the video a like if you're excited. We've got 3 tournaments to look at today with over 300 players and 2 other tournaments with about 80 players or so. We're going to be looking at all of the top deck lists and discussing where the meta is settling. Set Championships are going to be running from July 12th all the way to August 10 on Saturdays and Sundays. And you can use the Ravensburger Play Hub now to find stores near you. I went to a Set Championships recently, courtesy of Ravensburger, so thanks to them. And you're going to see my game versus Earlmeister getting uploaded tomorrow, so look out for that. A big shout out to the channel sponsor Card Market. We're going to take a look at the best sellers of the week at the end of the video to get a bit of a view on the meta in terms of the market best sellers. But let's crack on with the top 8 deck lists from these big tournaments. PPG in North America, they are the people that were running the challenges last year in North America. They have like this big new series and they had 2 big events at the weekend, one on Friday, one on Saturday. So let's look at the top 8 from both, starting off with Amber Steel. And this Amber Steel list is quite similar to what we saw Ed running in the World Championships, at least to an extent, with that Namari maybe being inspired by Ed. Ed wasn't actually playing a whole new world, but this deck is continuing down the whole new world route. Basically, it's not really that similar to Ed's, but it has an Amari. One Grab Your Swords is also really nice. I think it's a surprise option that can deal with Diablo really easily. One Bare Necessities in a similar vein. Like this is just juicing up that song count for Ariel, so she's going to be hitting quite consistently. Sticking strong with the Rhino. I think like one concern I would have about this deck is with the whole new world is you don't have an abundance of singers. You've got Ariel, you've got Naveen, you've got Namari, and you've maybe got an Ariel Sonic Warrior as well. So it's risky. But if you can get that whole new world through, Naveen in particular is going to be your safety net to do that. You're going to be good to go. And I do like the use of Naveen. If you're going down the Rhino route, traditionally in this 1 cost slot, you would have Robin Hood or a Queen, and then you would have a Shift 5 character getting whole new world through more easily. Without that, Naveen, even though it's uninkable, it's a bit risky in that sense. The fact that you can play it down on turn 4 and immediately use the whole new world gives you a little bit of a safety net when you don't have as many ways of singing a whole new world. Otherwise, also in the top 8, we have Camille on Ruby Amethyst. This is using the Half Shark. No surprises there, I think, at this point. One thing that's always interesting to see is what 2-cost character players go for, and it's Ursula the Mad Sea Witch. And only 3 copies of Madam and Fox, which you don't see every day, but 4 Crabs and 3 Peter Pans means a lot of control options. 2 Iagos, 2 Tremaines, which you also don't see all that often, and 1 of these new Hades cards as well. Lots of actions. These can obviously be recycled with the Maui Half Shark and 3 libraries. Finders Keepers is a really big problem for the Emerald discard decks which aren't playing Bare Necessities. So I think it's a really good inclusion. I think that traditionally this deck would really struggle against discard, but that Finders Keepers can make such a huge difference. Top 8 also, another Amber Steel. This one's playing Rhino and Robin Hood, so it's going to be a little bit more consistent with getting a whole new world through. Also does have 1 Naveen. Interesting, they're only playing 2 1-cost Robin Hoods because they're still playing that Rhino. Obviously, you could argue if you're playing 2 Robin Hoods, is the shift worth it? Well, clearly, it worked out here for Ben. They are also a little bit inspired by Ed with the Beast in there. At least that's how I'm reading it. It's not something you would see that often. I actually got completely wrecked by a Beast in Amber Steel at my most recent tournament that I played in as well, so it can definitely catch a lot of players off guard. It's good against discard decks in particular. A very interesting setup in that one. Still in the top 8, we've got Nicholas on Ruby Sapphire. This is an item build. Not too much to talk about. I mean, I guess actually 4 Sisus catches the eye. You tend to see like 3 or 2, but they've got 4 and 4 Brawls. This deck should be able to answer Diablo very consistently on turn 3 because you can play Sapphire Coil on 2 and then Sisu on 3. A lot of the time these decks against the Diablo won't actually ramp. They're just going to try and remove the Diablo at all costs and then try and ramp later down the line. Only 3 T-pos is very greedy indeed, but if you hit your ramp, you're going to be really, really thrilled to see that, but you're again, maybe going to lose some games because you don't ramp. But that's where the Fishbone Quill comes in as well, right? You don't have to ramp on 2. It's not as important. You set up the coil on 2, and then you can play the Fishbone on 3. Very, very interesting setup. All right, into the top 4. Another Ruby Sapphire. This one is playing Half Shark. It's also got 2 Hades. It's got 3 Super Goof and 1 Hideaway, sticking strong with 4 T-pose. Very similar to what we're used to seeing with these Half Shark builds. Amber Steel in 3rd place. This one's playing Miss Bianca as their extra shift target, still sticking with a whole new world. We haven't seen any dock builds of Amber Steel in the top 8 of this tournament so far. One thing that I like is that they're playing Troubadour and Ursula. It's really interesting when you're deck building in all sorts of card games, how the game gives you this sort of limit of the amount of copies you can play. In this case for Lorcana, it's 4 copies. So often you're just like, well, I'm just going to play 4 of those. But sometimes you can almost play 5 copies. We saw Ed do it again. I'm talking about Ed's Amber Steel a lot, rightfully so. It got to the final with the World Championships. He had 4 Troubadours, 4 Ursulas. Important to remember, different format. Triple deck constructed is very, very different, but maybe just sort of taking a bit of a note from his book. And I think he's the best deck builder in the game. So I think that that's a really reasonable thing to do. 2 Smees, Rhino still in there, 3 Daisy. I quite like 11 1-drops. It's quite a nice number. If you had to just give me a number of the right amount of 1-drops, I would say 11. I like playing 11 1-drops. A lot of people will play 8. Some people will play 10. I like 11. I think 11 is a nice little sweet spot, and particularly with an uninkable as well, that sort of makes sense that Daisy would be a 3 of. That just makes a lot of sense to me intuitively from a deck building perspective. I really like Gaston. This is a card we've seen Zach Bivens use a lot, and I think Miss Bianca's great as well. So I have to say, I think this is my favourite Amber Steel Songs version I've seen so far. World's Greatest Criminal Mind is in there. No Grab Your Swords. Looks really solid to me. There's not really much I would change. Maybe I would want to play the 4th Smee and reduce Lawrence down to 2. I think Smee's great, but Lawrence is not bad either, right? So very, very nice list, I think. Amber Emerald. Now, I got to say, Amber Emerald is the main deck catching my eye at the moment as of being one of interest that I'd like to try out. I mentioned Finders Keepers and that being a big problem for Emerald discard decks, but Bare Necessities is a great counter to it. So the Emerald Amethyst discard deck actually has a pretty tricky matchup against Ruby Amethyst right now and Blurple because of that Finders Keepers. So I would wager that this deck has better coverage into those matchups because of the Bare Necessities in particular. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be an easy matchup, but very fascinating to see an Aladdin 2-drop in here. It's just a warded 2-drop. It's basically just going to sit there doing nothing and wait until you're ready to sing Under the Sea or perhaps Sudden Chill, Bare Necessities, Painting the Roses Red. The 2-cost slot in these decks are quite weird. You can play Sir Hiss. Sir Hiss is obviously a nice evasive, but it can be removed by Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of a Raging Fire. It can also be taken out by Elsa, whereas Aladdin is safe. Right, it is safe. 4 Prince Johns, 4 Diablos, no surprises there. Kida, Cricky, Muses, all the things we're used to seeing. A lot of these songs we're used to seeing, with the exception of Lost in the Woods. All opposing characters get -2 strength until the start of your next turn. It's almost like a 5th Kida, right? Lady Tremaine, really, really fascinating with the Muses, because you can bounce Lady Tremaine back with the Muses and then replay her to find yourself another We Don't Talk About Bruno, maybe another You Have Forgotten Me, whatever it might be, even a Under the Sea as well. And Louis is the other card which really catches the eye in this one. It enters play exerted, and when you play it, you give a opposing character Reckless. I'm pretty tempted to try out some Amber Emerald myself pretty soon. There's a good chance I might play it for my upcoming set championships. I'm undecided. I need to get some practice in probably, but the very heavy discard setup is nice. Diablo Shift, when you've only got 4 1-drops, I personally don't like the playstyle of. It feels very high-rolly, but when you do well with it, when you find your Diablo shifts consistently, you can be in a really, really good spot. But if you imagine, like, if you saw my video against DKP, spoiler alert, I lost, and he was just able to answer my Diablos so consistently, and I had 11 1-drops, I think, 11 1-drop Diablos, maybe 10. Playing only 4, you're investing a lot of your mulligan to try and high-roll into that Diablo. When it gets answered, it's going to feel really, really bad. Having said that, in Amber Emerald, Diablo being able to sing Bare Necessities is unbelievably strong, because if your opponent's trying to remove your Diablo with a song, you're going to counter them very, very easily. And obviously you play a lot of songs already to discard for Diablo. I think it's hard to play this deck without Diablo, but that's just the one part of the deck that I don't personally enjoy from a playstyle perspective, but I definitely think it's the way to go, no doubt about that. And the winning deck is Amethyst Emerald, the deck that I've been playing so far this set, and I like the look of it so far. Only playing 7 1-drops Diablos is definitely greedy, but that's still a lot of Diablo shifts. I'm actually playing 10. I have like that 2-1 Diablo in there for I'm investing a little bit in extra consistency. Having said that, Jordan here is playing the Diablo 2, so you can shift Diablo on 3. It is a lot better to shift a Diablo on turn 2 because you just start asking questions of your opponent that little bit sooner in the game, right? Like if you're shifting a Diablo on 3, your opponent can brawl immediately or Sisu immediately perhaps, whereas if you're shifting on 2 against a lot of decks, it's just going to cause them that little bit extra problems. But greedy on the 1-drop Diablos, but 7 is still a lot more than 4 that you're going to get in your Amber Emerald, for example, right? 3 Crabs, 2 Peter Pans, 3 Prince Johns. I personally am a 4 Prince John believer, but my list is a bit more discard heavy than a lot of the lists you see. Genie, Iago, Belle, Cricky, Elsa, 1 Hypnotic Strength. I imagine Hypnotic Strength is just in there as an extra action to discard with your Diablo to shift. People play Improvise in some lists as well. It's a very, very similar idea. You're paying 1 extra, but getting 1 extra challenger. I imagine there's some thresholds they're looking for in particular with that. I suppose Improvise on Peter Pan can't take out a Genie, but Hypnotic Strength on a Peter Pan or a Genie can take out an opposing Genie. So that's probably the reason for that. They never come back. Up to 2 chosen characters can't ready at the start of their next turn draw a card. A lot of the time what happens with these decks is it's actually a very slow deck to win. If you look at the questing power, there isn't a lot of it really. You win very, very slowly. You discard your opponent's hand, and then they're left in a position where they're just top decking. So any card which slows them down, like Elsa or Belle or Bruno or Wrong Lever, or in this case they never came back, is an interesting option. And again, it's just adding that extra action to increase the consistency of the Diablo. You don't really want to be holding a action card in your hand when you're mulliganing aggressively for Diablo. You really just want to be able to keep a 1-drop or a 3-drop, because often you're only going to have one of those. Mulligan 6 and then just draw naturally from the mulligan into an action card, and being at about 17, 18 actions is around the safe range of that. So this one's at 12, 14, 15, 19, 20. So incredibly consistent on finding that Diablo shift. That's what those extra couple of actions do. 1 Hidden Cove. I absolutely love Hidden Cove in this deck. I think it's outstanding. I'm currently playing 3. I think it's absolutely brilliant because you have the most consistent Diablo shift in the game with this deck. And the biggest high roll line is the Hidden Cove. So that's why I'm playing 3, but I think it's great as a one-of as well. Absolutely. I'm still sticking with Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever. Wrong Lever is really good against Half Shark. I've personally moved away from it. It feels quite high rolly. I definitely think that Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever is great, and especially if you're playing Diablo. Interestingly, Ed in his interview, I keep mentioning Ed in today's video, he mentioned that he doesn't really like the Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever stuff outside of Diablo builds, and I totally agree. We do see a lot of Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever stuff from players not playing Diablo. I don't rate that. Like, a huge part of the value of this combo is discarding Pull the Lever when you shift Diablo, because then your Wrong Lever is just ready to go and it's good to go. I think post-rotation, I will definitely be playing these cards regardless, because Hypnotize might get rotated out and that sort of thing, whereas these are safe. But they're definitely very interesting cards. We're seeing most people stick with them. I've personally cut them after a lot of testing, but they're no doubt very, very strong. And this is really good to see Amethyst Emerald winning this like 300 player event. Also, 350 players. I think it's one of the best decks in the format. So big congratulations to Jordan. Well, there was more tournaments from PPG that weekend, because on Saturday, there was a 451 player event. So let's take a look at this one. Top 8 again. Amber Steel, I'll find My Flatten, Be Our Guest. Very Ed inspired. Ed is just the man of the hour. But this one's playing Doc. So this is actually a very, 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 very Ed inspired list, right? It's playing Ariel, Doc, Beast, Be Our Guest, and it's not playing A Whole New World. This is very similar to what we saw Ed doing. It's also got Troubadour and Ursula. It's not playing the Namari, which Ed had, so definitely some changes there. 8 1-drops isn't a bunch. But it's really cool to see a very different take on Amber Steel. It's like a hybrid, isn't it, between an aerial deck and a dock deck, because it's playing aerial and dock, but no whole new worlds. I wonder if a deck like this could even get away with playing like one whole new world or something like that. Like whole new world's one of those cards where you just look at it as playing 4 copies. It would be interesting to see if there's ever an argument to play like 1 or 2 in this kind of build. I don't know, but it's just food for thought. Emerald Amethyst also in the top 8, and this one is also on 7. I mean, this looks almost identical, right? But they have got the 7 1-drops. They've gone for 1 Hypnotize, 1 Hidden Cove, 1 Hypnotic Strength. I like the addition of Hypnotize. I think Hypnotize, I much prefer the look of as like a one-of action compared with this They Never Came Back. Hypnotize is an outstanding card. I'm playing 4 copies in my version. Again, I'm not playing the pull the lever stuff at this moment in time. But Hypnotize as that 1 extra action to me just seems like a better addition. This deck didn't perform quite as well on day 2. I think it's identical except the Hypnotize, and I like the change a lot. This is an amazing card. So strong. Amber Emerald also in the top 8 here, but this one is a Churner Dogs deck, and I also am pretty interested in testing Churner Dogs out more. I think like Amber Emerald to me is like the most underexplored ink color, which has big potential. Maybe like Sapphire Steel, but I think Sapphire Steel is likely not that good. But Amber Emerald, really good to see it having such big results this weekend. This lady 1-drop is just absurd. Whenever you play a character, it gets +1 strength this turn, and when it has 3 strength or more, it gets +2 lore. It's the only card in the game which is inkable and can quest for 2 on turn 1, with the exception of the Golden Harp, which is the one which banishes itself if you don't play a song. So lady's the only 1-drop that's inkable that you can safely play on turn 1 that can quest for 2. Outstanding card. I wonder even if like the Amber Emerald discard decks could ever justify playing this. I'm not so sure because its stat line is weird, but I love it, and it's a great shift target as well for this lady, which is also a brilliant card. When you play this character, you may return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand. And obviously this Tramp, we saw this deck win the Ravensburg event, which is like the closest thing to a DLC we've had since October last year. It was like a 250 player event last set, but the deck got a lot of extra juice. This 3-cost ladies in there. 4 copies of Invited to the Ball is really spicy as well. Looks like a good deck. I'm really interested in Amber Emerald. I think there's a good chance I do some play testing of it in the next week or so. I've got a couple of tournaments coming up, and this is the color combination which I'm most interested in exploring. Amber Emerald, look at that. It's doing pretty well. Also on the Aladdin, it's possible some of these players are the same we saw, because this looks like the exact same list, 1 chip in there as what we saw earlier in the video, but great results there. Into the top 4, we have got Amber Steel. This one's on the Namari. This might be the same deck we saw in the top 8 of the previous day as well. It is on a whole new world, no Beast, and the Prince Naveen, as well as 2 Bare Necessities. I think Bare Necessities is great. I really like the card a lot. We've got an Amber Steel Dock. This one's playing what? Okay, this is a spicy one. This is a really spicy by Justine. Let's go, Justine. Take a bow. Aurora's in there. Whenever you remove 1 or more damage from a character, ready this character. She can't quest or challenge, but she can continue to sing, and she's going to be ready and quest the next turn. And the Goof, at the end of your turn, you may remove up to 1 damage from each of your other characters. Ready each character you remove damage from this way. Really good with Smee. It's a very interesting option as an aggressive build, but catching the eye without doubt. Those 7 Dwarfs mine, sure, but the Robin Hood. Exert to deal 1 damage to chosen character. That is not something you see very often. I've actually got a playset of signed Robin Hoods, so it's a card that I have a bit of a soft spot for. Really interesting inclusion. It is uninkable, but the uninkable count in this deck relatively low overall. 8, 10, 14. It's actually not that low. The Robin Hood's definitely, it puts it from 12 to 14. Very fascinating to see. Not a deck I would have expected. If you showed me this deck, I would not have expected it to get top 3 in a 451 player event. And that just shows you that you can do unorthodox things and succeed. So big congratulations to Justine. I think this is the most interesting deck of the video so far. In second place, we have a You Have Forgotten Me and a Daisy Duck Musketeer Spy, Amber and Steel. Discard is very strong, even without Prince John, particularly if you're like surprising your opponent. This is a card I've always raved about. It's never really seen that much competitive play. It's very, very similar to Chip, who is seeing a lot of play in the Emerald discard decks at the moment, but it's a 3-2 stat line, whereas Daisy Duck is a 2-3. 3-2 maybe a bit better, but Daisy Duck is safe from Storm. It's safe from Fire the Cannons. Daisy Duck also has nice synergy with the Muses, which is obviously not relevant in this particular deck. But yeah, you have forgotten me in a Doc build. Very, very spicy. And Daisy Duck, just to like solidify, Sing Zeus. I mean, a big problem with the Daisy Duck card is once you play it, it's not doing that much. But being able to Sing Zeus, that's quite a big deal. Very, very cool. Discard gives you good coverage against Ruby Sapphire, I would imagine. But first place is Ruby Sapphire, and it is very similar, if not identical, to the list that DKP took to Worlds. I think it's slightly different, but that Merlin's Carpet Bag, a card which I have been on record saying is terrible on this channel in the past for Ruby Sapphire decks. It just shows you that sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. I will say the context of Merlin's Carpet Bag has changed significantly since I roasted it, because you are now able to play it for free with Tamatoa Happy as a clan. But we saw DKP utilize this in the Ruby Sapphire Mirror against Ed in the finals of the World Championships, where the Carpet Bag, he just played it down and he used Hideaway on Ed's Maurice's workshop, and he basically just outdrew the item deck because of this one Carpet Bag, just drawing him loads of the popsicles. It was really cool to see. Only 2 Goofies, maybe a little bit weak to aggro, particularly Amethyst. The thing is about Goofy is the threat of Goofy can often be enough to make your Amethyst opponent pop their Churnabogs and their Magic Brooms, and therefore you're arguably getting that Super Goof value without having to play 4 copies. You just have the threat of it as a 2 of, and your opponent has to respect it. So that's an interesting thing to think about. 1 Hades, 1 Maleficent, 2 Big Sisu. Awesome result. Ruby Sapphire taking down this one. But we're not done yet, because we've got a big event over in Italy with 322 players. And the Italians had an outstanding performance at the World Championships. 2 out of the top 8 players were from Italy. 25% of the top 8 in the World Championships from Italy. Big congratulations to my friends from Italy. And what an awesome event to see with 300 plus players. This one is Emerald Amethyst in the top 8. It's got the 8 1-drops that you would expect. It's got 1 Louis, 2 Fox, 2 Chip. It's got a Belle, a Cricky, an Elsa, an Ursula. And Improvise is that sort of one-off extra action that we were talking about. Only 3 Brunos. I personally think that 4 Brunos is the way. It's just such a high value, high potential card in this deck. But can certainly see why you would trim one away. 4 lever, 3... 4 pull the lever, 3 wrong lever. Looks like a really, really solid build to me. Nicely done. Ursula's cool as well. We've got another Amber Seal. This one's with Miss Bianca. This one's also playing Beyond the Horizon, 2 copies of that, which we haven't seen yet today. Miss Bianca is pretty good with Beyond the Horizon, to be fair. Naveen is Singer 6, can't sing it on its own, but it can definitely contribute. And Naveen's making a real comeback, and this looks like a solid setup. Also, that 1 Cinderella Stout Hearted. Interesting stuff. We've got Papi Stefano on Ruby and Amethyst, also on Ursula. 10 1-drops, 1 Iago, 1 Hades, 1 Ursula. Finders Keepers, a Dragonfire Brawl. I would say that second Finders Keepers is really worth it, just for that Emerald Amethyst discard matchup. Coming from someone that has played against this deck as Emerald Amethyst discard, I would be very happy to see only 1 Finders Keepers. Of course, Maui can recycle it, but this is like an uninkable card essentially in this deck now that you're only playing 1 copy. I feel like a second is worth it. We've got Amber Seal Aggro with also Goofy, with Penny, with Calhoun, with Lady, with Rhino. I like the look of this one quite a bit. I think Lady's very, very strong with Doc. Like, it just synergizes nicely. Also with Calhoun. I've had a bit of a problem with Calhoun in the past, where I don't like playing Calhoun on 2 in a lot of matchups if I'm trying to be aggro, and it's just in your hand because it's uninkable. You have to play it at some point. When do you play it? Well, Lady gives you a better tempo window to play it if you're trying to be aggressive. So that's pretty cool. Lady's not that good going second, but Calhoun is great going second. So you've got a bit of a balance in that sense as well. Looks really good to me. I like it a lot. Third place, Emerald Steel discard. We haven't really seen Emerald Steel doing too well recently. I think a big part of that is it's just hard to fit everything in, and it's hard to get enough discard while also having enough control. And if you look at the amount of discard, despite playing 4 Prince Johns, there's 2 chips, 4 Sudden Chills, there's Bruno, there's Ursula, and that's it. Whereas if you look at the Emerald Amethyst discard decks, you might play more chips, you might play Hypnotize, you might play Pull the Lever, which can discard. So it's definitely got a little bit less discard, but it does also have the Ursula Deceiver of All, which can double sing Sudden Chill. That's sort of a big way of getting some extra discard into these Emerald Steel builds. I like the Morph inclusion with Beast. It gives you that little bit of extra Diablo consistency. As I've mentioned, I really don't enjoy playing four copies of a Diablo 1 and a Diablo 3, because the mulligan, it's just a bit of a miserable playstyle at times. You just kind of mulligan, you just go, well, let's see what happens. But with this deck, Morph on 2 gives you Diablo Shift on 3. And I've said Diablo Shift on 3 isn't as good, but if you combine that with Pete, it's absolutely fine. So I think that the Morph in this build is really, really good. Gives you the Beast on 3. It gives you Diablo Shift on 3 into Pete combo. Looks like a really solid build. 2 big copies of Pete, 1 big Maui is interesting to see as well. Very, very cool setup. I've always loved Baboom as well. And again, it's just another action for your Diablo discard. It's inkable. Pretty spicy to see. You definitely don't see Baboom too often, but it's always a card I've been a big fan of. Ruby Sapphire Shark in second place. This one is on the 4 Super Goofs. Only 3 Develop Your Brain, which I do think is controversial. I feel like that 4th Develop Your Brain has to be worth it with the Half Shark. But obviously you can recycle them. It's not the biggest steal in the world, but I feel like if you were to show that to DKP, he would probably say the same thing, and that he would want that 4th Develop Your Brain. But build looks really solid overall with 2 brawls. Do sometimes see players removing the brawls. But I think having the option of it is nice, particularly with that Half Shark being able to recycle it if you need it in a pinch. First place is the spiciest Ruby Sapphire items deck I've ever seen, and that's because of 1 card and 1 card only, and that is Chicha. Chicha is a card which did really well in a lot of Sapphire Steel builds a long time ago, and it's one of those cards I've been looking at myself, just like, yeah, this is underrated. It's uninkable, which is a problem, but once during your turn, it's actually not once during your turn, it's multiple times per turn. So you can kind of compare this card to Oswald in a way. It's got the same stat line. It does only quest for 1, but instead it has support, which is not irrelevant, by the way. And during your turn, when you put a card into your Inkwell, if it's the second card you put into your Inkwell this turn, you may draw a card. Okay, ignore me. It is once a turn because it's the second card. I knew there was something there. It's been a while since I've seen Chicha, but it's a really strong card. I've wondered if you could even try Chicha in Emerald Sapphire, for example. It's like a different card draw option. It's a very, very good card. It is vulnerable to Let the Storm Rage on. It is vulnerable to Fire the Cannons and Babooms and Strength and all these sorts of things. So it is unorthodox, but with 4 Fishbone Quills, the Chicha can really, really run away with things quite quickly. So you can play the Fishbone on 3, and then on turn 4, you play Chicha, Ink, Fishbone, Chicha draws already, right? I don't think you're necessarily playing her on turn 2. It's like a card that you would play a little bit later. Maybe, at 4 Ink, after a Fishbone Quill, you could play a Chicha. Could you play 2 Chichas in that turn? No, you couldn't, but there's definitely turns you can play 2 Chichas, right? She's like really, really solid. She allows you to just keep inking very aggressively while replacing, and the support is not irrelevant, right? Like 2 strength onto something like Maui. Suddenly your Maui can take out a library, for example, or your Bell could take out something slightly bigger like a Daisy Duck. Very, very cool to see Chicha winning this tournament in Italy. There's 2 more tournaments we're going to look at today, and they are slightly smaller events, but still big events over in Europe. We've got a 74 player event in Austria, I believe. The Rare Hunter Shop in Austria. This one is Bonacera, who is a content creator, so big congratulations to him. Someone I've played against a few times, and he's also an Amber Emerald, and this is a spicy list. It's almost a bit of a hybrid. It's kind of like what I was mentioning, like, ooh, could you do like a hybrid discard mixed with the Lady and the Tramp? Well, just this Tramp card makes a lot of sense to me in this deck, because it's a 7 cost, which you can play on the cheap, and it can help you sing under the sea really, really nicely. One Chernobog is also in there, so very, very spicy build by Buonasera. One Mother Knows Best is not something you always see either. Big congratulations to them on top 4. In third place, we have Lucas, who is playing Discard. They have the 8 1-drops, they have a Cloud Kicker. Only 2 Prince Johns, so definitely not relying much on the Prince John draw, but more trying to get the card draw through the Genies and the Diablo. 1 Hidden Cove is in there. Pull the lever, wrong lever, 4-3 is a nice setup, I think, for that. 1 Cricky in there as well. Looks a little bit low on card draw for me, but that's just because I'm a massive Prince John fanboy. I am biased. We've got Rice Master in second with the World Champs Creation, and it's it's DKP's deck. 4 Goofs, 1 Carpetbag, Hades, nicely done. And in first place, we do also have another Emerald Steel Discarder, which is also playing Baboon, which is fascinating. It's also on the Morph. It's only on 3 Beasts, 3 Muses. It's on 2 Hypnotized, 2 Chips. So a little bit more discard in this one with those Hypnotized, 2 Hidden Coves, and 2 Beyond the Horizons as well. 3 Big Pete's, no room for the Maui, only on 3 Prince Johns. I like the look of this one. I feel like these decks could do with like 1 copy of Doc because of the Muses and Doc synergy. We saw Wonderland win DLC Seattle with a single copy of Doc in Emerald Steel. Obviously with Beyond the Horizon, you're kind of filling up that slot, but just food for thought. Big congratulations to Mystic. Sure, probs. And the final tournament we're going to look at is a 65-player tournament at Welpy Toys, which is, I want to make sure I know where it is, in the Netherlands. Nice. I've not played Lorcana in the Netherlands. I would like to change that. Blurpool, first time we've seen it today, which is interesting. It's got what you'd expect, but Diablo 1-drop. A lot of Blurpool players refuse to play 1-drops, and it always confused me. So big shout out to Rapiel for playing some 1-drops in Blurpool. I just think, why not? I think it's weird not to. Crab, Fox, Diablo 1-drop, very, very good, right? Suddenly with a 1-drop, you can go 1-drop plus Fox for 4, right? Like, if you're only playing 2-drops and stuff like that, your Fox can be a lot more awkward, I would wager. So I like to see that there's 1-drops in there. Of course, also the Porpsicle plus Bell. I actually are playing 2 copies of Into the Unknown. This looks really solid to me. Iago's in there. Bell, Elsa, Hades, Elsa, Hideaway is interesting as well. 4 Finders Keepers. Very, very spicy. No locations in this one. I just like the inclusion of the 1-drop Diablo, I gotta say. A lot. Ruby Amethyst in third place for Yannick. They're playing a half shark build. They have the Hades, the Brawls, Finders Keepers. Similar to the other lists that we've been looking at today. And the top winning deck from this tournament in the Netherlands, a really spicy build with Oswald and Scuttle. I like Scuttle when you have a bunch of items, and this deck certainly does have a bunch of items. Let's count them. It's got 6, 9, 10, 14, 18, 19, 23, 25, if my counting is correct. Also playing the Queen Diviner. Really, really cool to see. Your Oswald's going to have like an 85% hit rate, maybe even more, maybe getting close to like that 90% hit rate on Scuttle, which is really, really cool. I mean, if Scuttle's replacing himself, it's pretty damn good. Big congratulations to Tyrone. Honestly, some really spicy lists. Let's look at the best sellers of the week, courtesy of the channel sponsor Card Market. Namari's up there, Ludwig von Drake. This Arna, which has been seeing some play in Blurple, we didn't see it in today's video. Vinny the Green Pigeon is a cool card, which you could try playing in some steel aggro decks. There's also like a few unorthodox cards I wouldn't necessarily expect to see, like some super rares, maybe just people looking to complete their collections, for example, on the cheap. Wild cards are nicely priced. Fred, Mushu, this Ratigan, which we haven't seen much of. No surprise to see Pull the Lever up there. There's not that many cards which aren't from the new set. It seems like a lot of people just buying singles to fill up from the new set. This Tramp card's up there. Definitely hasn't had the impact a lot of people thought it might. I did say that I don't think it's quite as good as people think. Shift 4 is pretty expensive. But again, Amber Emerald, the deck I am interested in checking out. Doc's up there for £4. Ladies up there. Elsa Fifth Spirit, £2.77, despite being a starter deck card. Iago, £2.77, but despite being a starter deck card. Genie's at about £8 now, which is about $10. Very cool to see. Thanks again to Card Market for sponsoring the video. Thanks all for watching. Sorry there hasn't been as much content recently. I've just been sort of taking a bit of a break, really. But I'm going to be streaming some Gundam this weekend if you're interested in checking that out. The Gundam trading card game comes out tomorrow with starter decks. And I'm going to be doing probably stream on both Friday and Saturday from my LGS trying out Gundam. Cheers, guys.